are now up against live, hostile targets. So, if Little Red Riding Hood should show up with a bazooka and a bad attitude, I expect you to chin the bitch.
My young transition into full-time cinephile happened gradually, but it was the age of 13 that saw me really becoming obsessed with all things film.
Smile, you son of a...
At that age, I got to see classics like Alien, Jaws, Night of the Living Dead. You can guess that this is when I became a horror fan too.
So you've heard those stories as well then?
It was always there, from how I loved shows like Goosebumps and Are You Afraid of the Dark, but for a while I still avoided horror because I didn't want to get scared.
What scares you?
The self-destructive nature of the human condition.
Just taking a piss now.
The transition is best reflected in my attitude to this film.
Piss off, man. Nothing scares a Sarge.
For the first couple of years after I heard about it, I refused to even watch it just in case. But at the age of 13, a summer house party had this as the movie of choice, and I had to watch to save face.
I expect nothing less than gratuitous violence from the lot of you.
Judging by this video's title, you can imagine my attitude change was quite quick.
Exactly what is it we're fighting against?
Lycanthropes.
You what?
That's werewolves to you and me.
Dog Soldiers is a 2002 werewolf film directed by Neil Marshall, who'd achieve even greater success in the horror genre with The Descent. But Dog Soldiers came first, and it's the one I prefer. The squaddies could have used help from Juno, though. The premise is simple. Werewolves attacking soldiers in the Scottish Highlands. It boasts an impressive cast of Sean Pertwee and then unknowns Kevin McKidd and Liam Cunningham.
That's bloody charming, that is.
Although it saw a limited release in America, it managed to eventually catch on over there and has just as much popularity as in the UK.
What happened? We were attacked by huge fucking howling things, that's what!
There were even plans for an American-backed sequel that fell through. Probably not a bad thing, considering The Descent Part 2. Werewolves are a classic monster archetype, but have not enjoyed the same exposure as their vampire rivals. Vampires have Dracula as their jumping off point, the novel being written in the 1890s, Nosferatu giving the counterboost in 1922, and Universal's film arriving in 1931. The definitive werewolf story didn't show up until 1941's The Wolfman, although it was preceded by the lesser remembered Werewolf of London 6 years before that.
Never heard anything like it before.
These codified the plot of a poor innocent man who gets bitten, becomes a monster, and has to die to avoid hurting those he loves. Werewolf of London established the forced full moon transformation part of the mythology, while the Wolfman introduced the now familiar vulnerability to silver. You might notice that these werewolves look a bit more like apes than what we're used to seeing now. The Howling in 1981 gave us the more familiar bipedal werewolf, and An American Werewolf in London popularised the painful transformation sequence, which also won the first ever Oscar for Best Makeup. These two films were very formative on a young Neil Marshall.
It won't make any difference. They won't die.
Right off the bat, he wanted to avoid the cursed human trope, and as such, the film takes a lot of cues from the ones I mentioned in the opening.
What do you want to do?
Run and hide. I know what's coming.
The werewolves are straight-up antagonists who are never even seen in human form. No redeeming qualities are shown whatsoever, with the third act revelation that they're cannibals as well.
Dunno, mate. Looks like pork.
Yeah, well, leave some for us, you greedy mongrels.
And while they can infect and eventually turn people, those victims are more reminiscent of the zombie infectees, with a time limit on their humanity.
What about the Sarge?
What about the Sarge?
You know what I mean?
The influences are very obvious, but that isn't a bad thing. The real brilliance of Alien is how it contrasted with the more fantastical sci-fi of the day. Rather than cool adventure heroes with amazing powers and gadgets, it had a cast of average Joes dealing with a monster they don't understand, and instead of beating the evil empire or exploring the galaxy, the objective is just to make it through the night.
I hold them back, I keep them occupied, and you get out.
Dog Soldiers does the same with the werewolf formula.
What? Makes perfect sense to me.
What, you mean like full moon, silver bullets and eyebrows that join in the middle?
It's brought straight down to grounded realism, with the gritty cinematography giving it an almost documentary feel. That's probably more down to budget and this being Neil Marshall's first feature, but it works.
Well, that's the army for you.
Hey, it's England v Germany, man.
Full-on footy war.
Yeah, well, it's nothing like this at all then, is it, Joe?
And the choice to make the main characters soldiers even adds to the tension, since these guys have a fighting chance, and keeping the wolves at bay makes the chaotic third act all the more effective. The off-screen hints at backstory for the family and never seeing them in human form really sells the mysterious predator vibe, giving the impression that you're watching what a werewolf attack might be like in real life.
Every month, when the moon is full, they hunt as a team dedicated to the kill.
And the transformation sequences we do see are kept minimalistic and never take you out of the film. They specifically avoided using CGI for the wolves, and that just adds to the realistic tone, with some impressive designs to go with it.
Jesus! Fucking hell! Fucking what's happening, Cooper?
Dog Soldiers also plays the Jaws card of keeping the monster hidden at first to build tension. And when they're seen more often in the third act, it really gives the impression that everything is descending into chaos. Again, taking the right inspiration from Night of the Living Dead, filmmaking that's both budget-friendly and effective. What's also effective is the characterization.
I love you like the mate that I love.
Would you like to be alone?
Yes, I flog this horse rather a lot.
Is it your birthday, Coop?
No, mate.
Is it my birthday? Hey!
While I tend to want everyone to survive, there's only 2 movie characters I've actually prayed to get killed off.
You never stop, do you? You just I don't stop because they don't stop.
It does have to be said how great an ensemble Dog Soldiers has.
Take a breather every once in a while, son. You live longer.
Nice work, Spoon, you tosser.
Took the words right out of my mouth.
And you'll be taking my boot out your mouth in a minute, Joe, you baldy twat.
As good as Alien and Jaws are, I'm way sadder when these soldiers bite it.
Maybe it's like when you need to take a piss or something, I don't know. When you gotta go, you gotta fucking go.
Well, maybe it's more like needing a shite. Just because you need one doesn't mean you drop your kegs and pinch one off.
And it's definitely worth applauding that with a cast of 6 white males, most of whom wear the same thing and have the same haircut, you never have trouble distinguishing them.
Upstairs you've got Sergeant Wells, who you seem to know inside and out by now. You've got Spoon over there, the vomiting cavalier Terry, the big guy with the axe is Joe.
And let's not forget that the discussion about diversity does extend to accents too.
Balls of British steel. You're bloody loving this, aren't you?
It's a recurring problem in British media to favour southern, upper or middle class characters with RP dialects, and American media featuring British characters tends to just have RP with the occasional attempt at Yorkshire. And even actors from outside the South with regional accents were made to lose theirs per drama school tradition. Robert Carlyle was notable for refusing to go back to his unless he was allowed to keep his natural voice. And Dog Soldiers goes ahead and makes the lead character Scottish, features 2 Northerners prominently, and kills off the Southerners first. And while Captain Ryan is the sort of plummy-voiced villain you'd see in an American film, the positively portrayed Southerners show that this was more of an attempt to just feature a diverse group with no real statement about class, other than that it's completely irrelevant when you're fighting for your life.
My being here is a moot point, since I'm now in as much shit as you are.
We're all in the same fucking shit.
And showing that non-Southern characters can be portrayed as the heroes and badasses, rather than the idiots, villains or servants.
I'm gonna fucking have you!
Neil Marshall is a Newcastle native himself, and has spoken over the years about how much it means that this film, with its distinctly British humour and northern aspects to it, has such a popularity overseas.
Hardly life or death.
Don't bet on it, Joe, you're fucking slaying, mate.
But if there's any way to answer the question of why we love Dog Soldiers, it's an easier one than most of the films I've done.
You get stuck in and you kick their fucking teeth out, or I guarantee you, Joe, they will be having your bollocks for breakfast.
Why do we love Dog Soldiers? Because it's just fucking great.
I love it when a posh bear talks dirty.
Characters we love and care about, with 3-dimensional personalities and easy to root for.
Don't suppose you know who won the match?
Didn't even know there was a game on.
The one female is compelling enough in her own right, and feels like a character rather than a token.
Do you think I like being part of this fucked up family?
And while there is romance in there, it feels believable and organic to the story.
I chose you. But now you're out of luck, and I'm out of time.
Everyone's chemistry with each other means that I find the interactions between every character interesting in a way that makes me wish this was a series instead, so we get more time with them.
You incompetent moron!
Do you want to have a fucking go, like?
And this has the effect that each death feels like a punch, and you're actively rooting for most of them to survive the night. So when another one dies, it increases the sense of urgency and horror, instead of just being in there because a death has to happen.
You're behind me, aren't you?
Joe's death in particular really packs a punch in the same way as those of Tom and Judy in the original Night of the Living Dead, and I hope I'm not the only one whose childhood innocence was shattered forever at the death of Spoon. Actually, I hope I am the only one. No one should have to go through that at 13.
I hope I give you the shits, you fucking wimp.
But the objective filmmaker in me can still praise this as an example of writing successful characters. Unlike, say, Helen in I Know What You Did Last Summer, who was a better protagonist than Julie and deserved to make it to the end, damn it! These deaths and the sole survivor trope feel best for the story, and me wishing they'd survived means that they were successful characters.
You've got to make it alive. This happened. Not just for me, my lads.
And of course, it was Neil Marshall's mission statement from the start. We're not making a werewolf movie with soldiers, we're making a soldier movie with werewolves.
The squad would be a lot worse off without you, mate.
I've praised the characters enough now, but these are easily my top performances from Kevin McKidd and Sean Pertwee.
Fetch!
Chris Robson and Darren Morfitt do the legwork and almost walk away with the film.
Anything else?
Yeah. What does bone mean?
Bone, bollocks, naff. Not very good.
Right.
Liam Cunningham's role is fine and unchallenging, but he gives us a good baddie to root against.
I remembered you. Monkey see, monkey do.
Soldier movie or werewolf movie, whichever you want to see it as, Dog Soldiers was very formative for me, and I'm lucky I got to see it when I did.
That puts a kibosh on that plan.
That was my car!
It's also pretty cool that, around the same time, another pioneering British horror was released, and studios beforehand had been convinced the genre didn't sell. It's also great to know that, in spite of broken ribs and freezing weather conditions, the film was, by all accounts, a lot of fun to make.
Over here, Cooper, on me head. Oh, you twatter.
I'm sometimes asked in my other job what set I'd like to go back in time and be part of, and, well, can you guess my answer yet?
Move your fucking arse, soldier!
I'm only against rebooting it if I'm not in it.
I think it's all over. It is now.